You ready to learn more about Jordan Peterson? Before becoming a household name, Jordan was a clinical psychologist and professor at the University of Toronto, but he quickly rose to fame as a result of his articulate and thought-provoking discussions, especially on issues that the woke left tries to impose on society. In this video, Peterson goes on a trip down the memory lane where he touches upon the personal and professional challenges he faced throughout his life. He even talks about the period where he was severely ill, expanding on the reasons that led to it. But before I delve deeper into it, make sure to subscribe for more discussions just like this.
It's a dangerous thing to play tricks on me because I've seen a lot of tricks. And normally, I treat people like they have goodwill. But if they play 3 tricks, I think, I see, you're insane. I know how to deal with that.
I've heard you say you're not confrontational by nature. Is that what you said? Or you don't enjoy...
Yeah, well, I'm an agreeable person. I wouldn't have been a clinician
So
otherwise.
This is remarkable to me because you do go on the offensive when you feel like someone's attacking you, which is, of course, what you should do, I think, in moderation. You did this recently with that fella, Destiny.
Yeah.
I mean, that was fun to watch. And I thought the two of you, it was an excellent exchange, but you seem to have no trouble calling people out and getting a...
Yeah, well, just because I'm agreeable doesn't mean I'm an idiot. And there is a distinction there. And it's been something I've wrestled with my whole life because I was a peaceable and agreeable child.
Okay.
And I grew up in a relatively rough town and with relatively rough people. And I had to learn to hold my own. And that was I skipped a grade, so I was young and small in my class. That also put me at a disadvantage, especially athletically. And my friends were like tough kids. And you had to learn to defend yourself, and I could defend myself verbally.
One of the main reasons that contributed to Peterson gaining fame is his ability to put people in their place when challenged with questions designed or framed to corner him. His assertiveness in debates and interviews has made him a polarizing figure, yet his approach is grounded in a deep commitment to truth and clarity. Peterson's readiness to confront and dissect controversial issues without resorting to low-level or personal attacks demonstrates his intellect and dedication to open discourse. I think it's safe to assume that he's one of the few people where you can talk with him about anything as long as you're willing to engage in good faith. One notable instance of Peterson's quickness in handling challenging situations occurred during his interview with Cathy Newman. Throughout the interview, Newman repeatedly attempted to misrepresent Peterson's views. However, Peterson remained composed, systematically deconstructing her arguments and clarifying his positions. His performance in this interview was widely praised as a masterclass in maintaining composure under pressure and defining one's views with logic and evidence. Beyond such heated debates or interviews, Peterson also had numerous appearances where he focused on topics such as personal responsibility, meaning, and psychological well-being, which resonated with a very broad audience.
I had done a lot of clinical work, and I had a fair bit of exposure to the misery of the world. But when I started speaking to a much broader public audience, the magnitude of that misery became rapidly apparent. I didn't understand how many people there were who were literally dying for lack of an encouraging word.
Okay.
And that came on me full force and constantly. And I think that's part of what made me ill, because I was very ill from 2018 till 2020, like terribly, terribly ill. And there were a variety of reasons for that, but stress was one of them. I mean, I basically lost my job. I lost my clinical practice, which really hurt me because I knew those people, man. They knew me better than anybody they'd known in their lives. I had relationships with all those people. And that just became impossible. And I was also being investigated by the tax authorities and all this else. Yes, and they admitted 3 months later that they'd made a mistake. It's like, oh, thank you for figuring that out. Your timing could have been better.
Yeah.
And so that was stressful. And then with the exposure to all that misery, that was a lot. And so could have I handled it better?
Between 2018 and 2020, Jordan Peterson faced a difficult period marked by personal and health challenges that led him withdrawing from the public spotlight for almost a year. During this time, Peterson's life took a dramatic turn which deeply impacted his career and personal well-being. He first encountered serious health issues when he began taking benzodiazepines, a class of medication prescribed to manage anxiety, which was a result of his wife's cancer diagnosis. Unfortunately, his body developed a severe dependence on the medication, leading to a range of debilitating withdrawal symptoms when he tried to stop using them. The situation worsened as he experienced extreme physical discomfort and mental distress, forcing him to seek intensive medical treatment. In his search for effective treatment, Peterson traveled to various countries, including Russia, where he underwent a controversial detox procedure. It involved placing him in a medically induced coma for 8 days to help his body overcome the severe withdrawal symptoms. The coma was a last resort measure showing the gravity of his condition and the desperation to find a solution to his suffering. Despite the risks associated with such a procedure, Peterson survived and began the slow and hard journey of recovery. Over time, with the support of his family and medical professionals, he regained his strength and eventually returned to public life. This situation brought him closer to his family, where he released a video announcing his return, saying, quote, "His family, his wife, son, and daughter, and their spouses provided tremendous support and were of inestimable value." In addition to that, Peterson proved through his journey and importance of personal responsibility, resilience, and the quest for meaning in life, showing that he puts his money where his mouth is.
Did you realize what that stress would be like as you grew in popularity? Because you didn't seek it out. It feels like it came and sought you out.
Yeah, well, it's a little of both, in some ways, because I put all my lectures on YouTube. That was more curiosity. I've tried to stay on the cutting edge of technology to the degree that I'm capable. And when YouTube popped up, I thought, what the hell's this? Permanent video. Permanent video. Oh, permanent video. That's sort of like the printing press, except for audio and video. We now have a printing press for audio and video. What the hell's that? Well, that's a Gutenberg revolution. Better jump on that. So I started, this is when YouTube was still cute cat videos mostly. I thought, I'll put my lectures online and see what happens.
Yeah.
And they started to grow. By the time everything exploded around me in 2016, I had like 200 hours of lectures online, which really saved me, right? Because people came after me when I opposed Trudeau's idiot legislation. You have to use pronouns. It's like, you, buddy. Seriously, you try to get control of my tongue and see what the hell happens. So I knew what that meant. Anyways, I got pilloried for that, for my meanness, even though I could see what happened. I told that bloody Senate in Canada in 2016 that they were going to produce a psychological epidemic among young women. I knew that.
Peterson was one of the few people that recognized the dangers of the woke left and called out their attempts on altering the foundations of our societies. He exploded in popularity after publicly opposing Canada's Bill C-16 in 2016. The bill proposed adding gender identity or expression to the list of prohibited grounds for discrimination under the Canadian Human Rights Act and to the Criminal Code's hate speech provisions. Peterson's arguments were not just about the bill itself, but about broader issues of free speech, compelled speech, and political correctness. He posted a series of videos on YouTube explaining his position, which went viral and sparked intense debate on both online and the media. His articulate and passionate defense of free speech resonated with many people who were just concerned about the increasing influence of authoritarian leftist ideologies. As his profile rose, Peterson was invited to speak at various forums and appeared on numerous television and radio programs. His ability to clearly articulate his views and his willingness to engage in public debate helped him build a large following, which only kept increasing after his return in 2021.
The Discovery of the Unconscious, which is a bloody classic, a great book. Yeah, it's a great book. And so I told the Senate that. Anyways, people came after me for being mean. Can't you just, call the poor victims what they want? It's like, not if they're going to force me. Thank you very much.
Did you have to learn how to handle that level of criticism? I mean, it seems like you've grown into it. You're okay with it now. But in the beginning, do you remember it being...
You've got to be afraid of the right things.
Yeah.
So you learn to handle it. It's like... I learned in the 1980s that totalitarian states depend on the lie. I spent my whole life studying atrocity. Nazi atrocity, Soviet atrocity, Maoist atrocity, North Korean atrocity, Japanese atrocity, serial killers, sexual slayers, like you name it. And I had a fair number of pretty dark people in my clinical practice too. And what did I learn? Lies lead to hell. And I learned that. It's not some hypothesis. It's like the Soviet Union was a tangle of lies, just like Maoist China, just like bloody communist China now. That's hell. So how do you get to hell? You lie. How do you stay away? You tell the truth. Okay, so what am I afraid of? Like politicians? Journalists? No, hell. Right. So
Yeah.
You got to have your fears in order, man.
Yeah.
And I know you don't lose control of your tongue. You sacrifice your soul and the state and everyone you love. You don't know it. You know, you're maintaining your silence to protect yourself. It's like, yeah, good luck with that. That's never worked. That's the moral of the story of Jonah. When God comes knocking and says that you have something to say, it's time to open your mouth.
That's what sets Peterson apart from the rest of the crowd. His critiques of political correctness, gender identity, and social justice movements are supported by extensive research and clinical experience. For instance, his perspectives on gender differences are backed by decades of psychological studies, while his insights into societal structures draws from a deep well of historical knowledge. He engages with his opponents' viewpoints, thoroughly dissecting their positions with logical precision and revealing inconsistencies in their line of thinking or lack of empirical support. That's why he's earned himself a following among those who value intellectual and honest discourse. The man has also faced a lot of opposition from leftist groups and even more who've sought to silence him throughout cancel culture tactics. These groups have organized protests, disrupted his speaking engagements, and campaigned to have him deplatformed from academic and public spaces. Despite these challenges, he's continued using his platform to advocate for free speech and pointing to the dangers of ideological extremism. But what are your thoughts on this? Does Jordan Peterson's journey inspire you to do better in life? Let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below.